Imagine a world where faith and reason get along. Picture a time when the pursuit of knowledge was not just about science or religion, but a harmonious blend of both. This was the essence of Scholasticism. Scholasticism was a significant intellectual movement that flourished in Europe from the 1000s to the 1400s. It was a time when scholars sought to reconcile the teachings of Christianity with the philosophical ideas of ancient Greece and Rome. During this period, Europe saw a surge in intellectual curiosity. Scholars and monks delved into ancient texts, trying to understand the world through a blend of faith and reason. They believed that truth could be found in both the Bible and the works of philosophers like Aristotle. Scholasticism was more than just an academic exercise, it was a way of life. Monks and scholars spent countless hours in quiet contemplation, studying ancient Greek texts and examining philosophical works. They aimed to create a cohesive understanding of the world that incorporated both religious and philosophical perspectives. They wanted the Bible and thinkers like Aristotle to agree. This was no small task, as it required a deep understanding of both theological doctrines and philosophical arguments. Yet they persevered, driven by the belief that faith and reason could coexist harmoniously. Imagine quiet monasteries where scholars read old texts. These were places of serenity and reflection, where the pursuit of knowledge was a sacred endeavor. Monks and scholars would spend their days immersed in study, seeking to uncover the truths of the universe. Picture exciting debates at new universities where students and teachers tackled big questions about religion and philosophy. These institutions became the breeding grounds for new ideas, where intellectuals could challenge each other and push the boundaries of knowledge. This movement changed how we think about theology, philosophy, and even knowledge itself. Scholasticism laid the groundwork for future intellectual endeavors, showing that faith and reason are not mutually exclusive but can enrich each other in the quest for understanding. Scholasticism had a powerful tool: dialectical reasoning. This method was not just a way of thinking, but a disciplined approach to learning and understanding the world. It was a rigorous process that involved questioning, debating, and reasoning to arrive at the truth. It came from the ancient Greeks, and it was the core of how they learned. The Greeks, with their love for philosophy and inquiry, laid the groundwork for this method. They believed that through dialogue and debate, one could uncover deeper truths about life, the universe, and everything in between. Imagine a structured debate, going back and forth with arguments and counter-arguments to understand the truth better. This wasn't just idle chatter. It was a disciplined practice. Scholars would present their arguments, listen to counterpoints, and refine their ideas through this intellectual exchange. Thinkers would use the Bible, writings from church leaders, and philosophers like Aristotle to make their points. These texts were considered authoritative, and scholars would meticulously analyze and interpret them to support their arguments. The synthesis of religious and philosophical ideas was a hallmark of scholastic thought. The goal wasn't to win, but to look at every side of an issue and find the best explanation. This method encouraged open-mindedness and a willingness to consider different perspectives. It was about seeking a deeper understanding rather than simply proving oneself right. This method, called dialectical reasoning, was a key part of scholasticism. It was a systematic way of thinking that emphasized logic and critical analysis. Scholars would engage in disputations, formal debates, where they would defend their theses against objections. Scholasticism was more than just an academic exercise. It was a way of life for medieval scholars. It shaped their approach to learning and inquiry, fostering a culture of intellectual rigor and curiosity. It made people better critical thinkers and helped create the scientific method we use today. The emphasis on evidence, logical reasoning, and systematic inquiry laid the foundation for modern science. Scholars like Thomas Aquinas and Albertus Magnus were pioneers in this intellectual tradition. Funny enough, scholasticism, even though it was all about faith, gave us tools that would later challenge some religious beliefs. The rigorous questioning and critical thinking that was central to scholasticism eventually led to new ways of understanding the world, paving the way for the Renaissance and the Enlightenment. Scholasticism didn't come out of nowhere. It had two main influences: ancient Greek philosophy, especially Aristotle, and the writings of early Christian thinkers called the Church Fathers. Aristotle, who lived way before Christianity, was important to scholastic thinkers. His logic, organized way of thinking, and ideas about ethics, metaphysics, and natural philosophy helped them understand the world. Scholastics thought Aristotle's writing could help explain their faith, but they also held on to Christian tradition. This mix of Aristotle's logic and Christian beliefs made scholasticism special. Scholasticism grew alongside medieval universities. These new centers of learning popped up in cities across Europe, and they were perfect for scholasticism. Imagine busy places full of students from everywhere studying with famous teachers. Universities like Paris, Bologna, and Oxford were scholastic hotspots. Inside these universities there was king. Students would study logic, grammar, and rhetoric for years, then debate, getting better at arguing with their teachers watching. Universities gave scholasticism a place to grow. They changed education forever and led to the university system we have today. Like any big movement, scholasticism had its stars. Three important thinkers were Anselm of Canterbury, Peter Abelard, and Thomas Aquinas. Anselm, known for his argument that God exists, believed reason could help understand faith. His famous saying, "Faith-seeking understanding," sums up the scholastic idea. Peter Abelard, a bit of a troublemaker, questioned traditional Bible readings. He thought doubt was important for finding truth, which made him both famous and disliked. But Thomas Aquinas is seen as the greatest scholastic thinker. His book tried to mix Aristotle's teachings with Christianity, creating a huge and important system of thought. Scholasticism's impact was huge. It changed not just theology and philosophy, but also law, science, and education. Aquinas' writings became super important for Catholic theology, influencing many priests and theologians. The focus on logic and reason also stuck around, helping later religious movements mix faith with modern science and philosophy. Aristotle's works became popular again, changing Western philosophy for centuries. The scholastic way of debating, with its focus on strong arguments and analyzing texts, influenced law and legal systems. Universities where scholasticism thrived trained lawyers and judges, shaping the legal profession. By the 1300s and 1400s, scholasticism started to fade. New ideas challenged Aristotle and the focus on reason. The Renaissance, which focused on humanism and classical learning, was a big change. Thinkers like Erasmus and Leonardo da Vinci emphasized human potential, creativity, and learning from experience instead of just abstract thinking. The Reformation, started by Martin Luther's challenge to the Catholic Church, also hurt scholasticism. Modern science, led by people like Copernicus and Galileo, added to its decline. Even though the Renaissance and Reformation changed things, scholasticism didn't vanish. It evolved, adapting to the new intellectual climates of the time. The Renaissance brought a renewed interest in classical texts and humanism, while the Reformation challenged the religious and philosophical status quo. Yet, scholasticism's core principles of rigorous analysis and logical reasoning remained influential. Scholars of the period continued to engage with scholastic ideas, integrating them with new discoveries and perspectives. Its influence continued in different areas, and scholars still talk about it today. In modern academia, the methods and approaches developed by scholastic thinkers are still relevant. They provide a foundation for critical thinking and structured argumentation, which are essential skills in various fields of study. From philosophy to theology and even in the sciences, the legacy of scholasticism can be seen in the way scholars approach complex problems. The focus on careful analysis, logic, and education, all important to scholasticism, continued to shape Western thought. Medieval universities, where scholasticism thrived, laid the groundwork for modern educational institutions. The emphasis on dialectical reasoning and debate fostered an environment where ideas could be rigorously tested and refined. This intellectual tradition has been passed down through the centuries, influencing the way we learn and teach today. Universities changed and adapted, taking on new ideas but keeping the core values of critical thinking and the search for knowledge. The architectural designs of many modern universities still reflect their medieval origins, with grand libraries and lecture halls that echo the past. These institutions continue to be places where knowledge is pursued and shared, embodying the spirit of scholasticism in their commitment to intellectual rigor and open inquiry. Even now, we see traces of scholasticism in how we tackle complicated issues, trying to balance faith and reason, tradition and new ideas. In contemporary debates, whether in academia, politics, or everyday life, the scholastic method of engaging with different viewpoints and seeking a synthesis of ideas remains relevant. This approach encourages us to consider multiple perspectives and strive for a deeper understanding of the issues at hand. Scholasticism's focus on dialogue and debate reminds us to listen to different viewpoints and question our own beliefs. This legacy of intellectual engagement and critical examination is a testament to the enduring power of scholasticism. It challenges us to remain open-minded and thoughtful, fostering a culture of continuous learning and growth. In a world that is increasingly complex and interconnected, the principles of scholasticism offer valuable tools for navigating the challenges we face. Scholasticism dealt with questions that are still important today. How do faith and reason fit together? Can logic prove God exists, or is faith something beyond what we can understand? These aren't just school questions. They're questions about what we believe, what we can know, and how we find meaning in a big and mysterious universe. Scholastic thinkers showed us how to use reason and dialogue to explore these big questions about faith and reason. They remind us to keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep talking to each other to try to understand these big ideas.